They came from nothing, three boys with holes in their shoes standing on a cracked Houston sidewalk, dreaming of microphones instead of miracles. Their names were Dino, Shazam, and G.I. Brothers, by blood and by hunger. When they sang, it wasn't polished. It was pain wrapped in velvet. And when the world finally heard them, it didn't just listen, it melted. The song was Knockin Da Boots. 1993, the beat dropped, and every radio in America turned into a confession booth. R&B had found its new voice, raw, sexual, unapologetically Southern. Three teenagers from Houston had done what no one expected. They made the whole country fall in love to the sound of their struggle. But behind the platinum records and the screaming fans, the truth was darker. While the world thought they were living a dream, they were living on crumbs, no cars, no houses, just hotel rooms and broken promises. They were singing about love while being robbed by the same system that praised them. And at the center of it all was Dino Connor, the soul, the leader, the preacher of passion. He believed music should honor women, not sell them. He refused to bend, even when the labels waved millions. He fought for respect in an industry built on exploitation. And that fight cost him everything. Because in 2003, the same voice that taught the world how to make love died violently on a Houston street. This isn't just an R&B story. It's a gospel of fame, faith, and the price of staying true. This is the story of H-Town and the tragedy of Dino Connor. Before they were stars, they were just three kids chasing echoes through the south side of Houston. No fancy studios, no managers, just a boombox, a church microphone, and a dream bigger than the neighborhood they came from. Keven Dino Connor was the heartbeat, the one with a voice too big for the room. He grew up poor, but you'd never know it from the way he carried himself. His mother said he sang before he could read. His brother, Shazam, was his shadow quieter, deeper, always harmonizing from behind, letting Dino's voice lead. Then there was Daryl G.I. Jackson, the third piece, a neighbor who could turn any corner into a stage. Together, they became brothers long before they became a group. In the late 80s, Houston was a city divided oil money up north, struggle down south. For kids like them, the only escape was rhythm. They practiced in bedrooms with cracked walls, making beats on tabletops, singing over tape hiss. Their first name was the Gents because even in poverty, they wanted class. Dino used to say, "We may be broke, but we don't have to look it." At just 14, they recorded their first album, It's Not a Dream. And for a moment, it felt like the title was right. They believed success was just one song away. But reality hit harder than the bass line. The record flopped. No airplay, no money, no future. Most kids would have quit. They didn't. Enter Bishop Stick Burrell, a Houston musician who toured with the legendary Marvin Sease, learning the craft of R&B from the old soul masters. Stick had known Dino's family since they were kids. When he heard the boys sing again, he knew the spark was real. But he also knew they needed direction. He told Dino straight up, "You're the leader now. You're the voice." From that day forward, Dino became more than a singer. He became the face and fire of the group. Stick started experimenting with a sound that blended old-school soul with the swagger of hip-hop heavy bass, warm keys, sensual rhythm. He pulled a sample from Zapp and Rogers' Be All Right. That same sample later appeared on Tupac's Keep Ya Head Up. But before that, Stick had used it to craft something softer, a slow burn meant for love, not pain. He gave the boys the beat and told them to write from the heart. The result was Knockin Da Boots. Back then, they didn't even have a proper studio. They recorded in small rooms, stacking vocals, praying someone would hear them, and someone did. Their manager, Pat Johnson, had connections with Luke Skywalker, the notorious founder of 2 Live Crew. Johnson tricked fate itself. When Luke came to town, he accidentally made him miss his flight, then dragged him to the studio. Luke walked in, saw 3 broke kids in torn sneakers, but when Dino opened his mouth, Luke froze. He later said in his book, "They were dirt poor, but they sang like they owned the world." Right there, Luke made them an offer. He hated their old name, the Gents. He wanted something raw, something proud, something that screamed where they came from. He looked at them and said, "From now on, y'all are H-Town. A new name, a new beginning." Luke took them to Miami, bought them clothes, put them in a real studio for the first time. They finally had a shot, but they also had no idea what was coming. They didn't know that fame would hit faster than money, that the same song that would change their lives would also start the countdown to their heartbreak. Because Knockin Da Boots wasn't just a record, it was destiny waiting to collect its debt. When Knockin Da Boots dropped in March of 1993, it didn't just land on the charts, it detonated. Radio stations across the country played it until the vinyl grooves wore thin. Every slow dance, every high school party, every late-night confession carried that same line. "Yeah, we're Knockin Da Boots." In one summer, 3 boys from the south side of Houston became national stars. The record hit #1 on the Billboard R&B chart, #3 on the Hot 100, and sold over 1 million copies. Their album, Fever for the Flavor, stormed the shelves #1 R&B, top 20 overall. No one saw it coming. Least of all, Dino, Shazam, and G.I. They were barely out of their teens, still shy, still humble, still learning how to navigate the cameras that suddenly chased them. But on stage, something lit up inside Dino. He wasn't just singing anymore, he was preaching. Sweat dripping, shirt open, voice trembling with fire and velvet. The women screamed until they cried. The men nodded in respect. R&B hadn't felt this alive since Marvin Gaye whispered, "Let's get it on." Tour life came fast. The Coca-Cola Summerfest tour put them alongside SWV, Shy, Naughty by Nature, even LL Cool J, 20,000 fans every night chanting their names. Backstage, they were still just kids eating fast food and calling home collect. But when the lights hit, they looked immortal. Then came Lick You Up. Another hit, another rush. Then Part-Time Lover, produced by Devante Swing of Jodeci for the Above the Rim soundtrack. The same film that gave Tupac one of his most iconic roles. That soundtrack went double platinum, and H-Town songs soared with it. At the 1,995 Source Awards, when Suge Knight gave his infamous speech at Puffy, H-Town were backstage. Kids from Houston watching history happen. They'd made it. But fame doesn't come clean. While the record sold millions, the checks didn't match. After the numbers were counted, the group received only $36,000 total. Split 3 ways. No cars, no houses. Just hotel rooms and per diem envelopes, barely enough for food. Dino joked on stage, but off stage, he was selling his stage shirts to fans for $100 each, just to survive. Their producer, Stick Burrell, later said he remembered Luke Skywalker handing them $20,000 a month while touring, but somewhere between Miami and the accountants, the money disappeared. Contracts written in small print became invisible chains. Still, they kept performing. They couldn't stop, the crowds wouldn't let them. Everywhere they went, women fainted, men envied, radio demanded more. H-Town had become sex symbols, the southern princes of slow jams. They won the Soul Train Music Award for Best New Artist, beating Escape and Tag Team. Magazines called them the new kings of bedroom R&B. But behind the cameras, Dino was changing. He saw how the industry was feeding on them, how every headline focused on abs and sweat, not the soul in their music. He wanted more. He wanted the kind of songs that healed instead of sold. He began writing lyrics about respect, love, spirituality. He talked to his brother about taking control, about building something that was truly theirs. He didn't know it yet, but that desire for control would cost him his peace. Because the moment an artist in the system starts asking questions, the machine starts pushing back. The fame that once felt like freedom was starting to feel like a cage. And soon, the boys from Houston would realize the hardest part of making it is keeping your soul once you do. By 1994, fame had stopped feeling like a blessing. The lights were too bright, the applause too short. And behind every performance, there was a contract waiting to choke them. H-Town were working on their second album, Begging After Dark. Dino wanted something deeper. He was tired of being painted as a sex machine. He wanted songs that talked about love, faith, and the pain of growing up in a world that didn't love you back. But Luke Records had other plans. They wanted more boot knocking, more bodies, more headlines, more skin, Dino argued. We already proved we can sell records. Now let us sing. But to the label, art didn't matter. Formula did. And the formula was lust. When the group appeared on Video Soul with Donnie Simpson, they did something no one expected. They walked on set in shackles, real metal cuffs on their wrists and ankles, to protest the label holding them hostage. On live TV, they declared, "We're not slaves to the industry." It was a powerful image, but a dangerous move. Luke was furious. The album still dropped Begging After Dark, led by the single Emotions. It hit Hassonon on the R&B chart, went gold, and once again, their music spoke louder than their management. But the damage was done. Trust was gone. Behind the smiles, there was exhaustion. Then, a new chance. Comedian Martin Lawrence called. He wanted H-Town to record the theme for his new movie, a thin line between love and hate. The result was magic, a haunting duet featuring Shirley Murdoch and Roger Troutman. It became their first top 40 pop hit in years. The industry celebrated, but the celebration didn't last. Legal wars hit Luke Records from every direction. Lawsuits, injunctions, unpaid royalties. The label started to collapse. And when H-Town demanded freedom, Luke finally let them go, not out of kindness, but fatigue. They were free. But freedom, they learned, doesn't come with a map. They signed with Relativity Records, this time with power. $1 million each. A new start, a new sound. Dino saw it as redemption. He wanted to make an album for women, not about them. Something respectful, mature, true. The result was Ladies Edition. Women's World, 1997. A dedication to the late Nicole Brown Simpson, with a helpline for abused women printed on the back cover. It was more than music, it was message. Dino said in interviews, "We wanted to show that R&B could heal, not just seduce." But the label didn't want healing. They wanted heat. They told him, "Give us another Knockin Da Boots, we'll give you $2 million. Dino looked them in the eye and said no. He wouldn't sell the message. He wouldn't betray the music. That no changed everything. The label pulled promotions. Radio spins slow it. Budgets vanished. H-Town's gold record got buried under silence. The brothers began to drift apart. Shazam and G.I. still wanted to chase success. Dino was done chasing, he wanted peace. He talked about God, about purpose, about walking away. He said he was tired of being used, tired of smiling when everything inside him was breaking. That's when the shows got smaller. The money ran thin. And the dream that had once carried them out of Houston started leading them back home to the same streets they'd sung their way out of. But for Dino, that return wasn't defeat. It was the beginning of something sacred, because when the world turned its back on him, he turned toward the light. He just didn't know that light was already calling him home. When Ladies Edition, Women's World hit the shelves in late 1997, it didn't sound like anything else on the radio. No moans, no fake lust. Just honesty songs that spoke to women, not at them. For the first time, a young R&B group stood up and said, "We respect you." It was bold, beautiful, and brutally unmarketable. The label hated it. America didn't know how to handle sensitivity from black men who once sang about sex. Radio stations hesitated. Magazines ignored them. And yet, fans, especially women, felt something shift. They wrote letters saying, "Finally, someone's listening." Oh, but the industry didn't reward virtue. While other artists were cashing million-dollar checks for explicit hits, Dino was fighting to keep his soul intact. He refused to record what he called songs for profit, not purpose. Behind closed doors, executives called him difficult, too deep, too stubborn. But to those who knew him, he wasn't stubborn, he was awake. By 2000, the fame had faded. Shazam tried going solo with Bringing the Heat. G.I. worked production gigs to stay afloat. Dino retreated into silence. He stopped going out, stopped picking up calls. Friends said he'd sit in the dark, lights off, replaying old records, the ones that made him believe. Depression shadowed him. Bills stacked up. He filed for bankruptcy. But even then, he was still writing. 2 weeks before he died, Dino called his brother. He wanted help finishing a song called The Day I Died. No one knew how literal the title would become. On the 28th of January 2003, just after midnight, Dino left the studio with his pregnant girlfriend. They drove through a Houston intersection, laughing, tired but happy. An SUV ran a red light. Impact. Silence. Both were killed instantly. When the news broke, it didn't sound real. A voice that once filled arenas was gone just like that. He was 28. The R&B community froze. From Luke Skywalker to Jodeci, artists called his death a tragedy that cut too deep. Fans flooded message boards. He taught us love didn't have to be dirty. For weeks, DJs played Knockin Da Boots and Emotions on repeat. The lyrics now ghostly echoes. The same song that launched him into fame now became his requiem. Across America, conversations began about exploitation, control, and the price of conscience in music. People started to ask, why do good men die broke while the machine keeps printing money? How many more Dinos will it take before the industry learns? But industry don't learn, people do. And for those who listened, Dino's story became a mirror. A reminder that sometimes keeping your soul means losing the world. After Dino's death, the music didn't stop, it just changed color. Silence became the new melody. And every time a slow jam played on the radio, Houston felt a ghost humming through the static. A year later, Shazam and G.I. gathered what was left. Demo tapes, unfinished verses, studio reels labeled in Dino's handwriting. They turned grief into motion, releasing imitations of life, an album of pieces stitched from his soul. No big marketing, no label push, just two brothers trying to keep their promise. The world barely noticed. But for those who did, every track felt like a whisper from beyond. Dino wasn't gone. He was just somewhere quieter. Time passed, but his shadow stayed. Fans still played Knockin Da Boots at weddings, still slow danced to Emotions, still cried when they saw his photo, that smile that made pain look holy. Shazam once said in an interview, "When we sing now, it's not for fame, it's for him." Years later, in 2019, something sacred happened. Under the lights of Detroit's National R&B Hall of Fame, H-Town's name was called alongside legends Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, Guy. On the screen behind them, a single image appeared. Dino in a white shirt, arms open, smiling like he'd never left. The crowd stood, not out of nostalgia, but reverence, because Dino's story isn't just about a singer who died young. It's about the price of purity in a business built on performance. It's about a man who refused to trade truth for applause. He sang about love when everyone else was selling lust. He sang about respect when labels wanted rebellion. And he died believing music could still mean something. Even now, when a slow groove drops at 2 a.m. in some small R&B bar, someone mouths his words. Somewhere, a DJ whispers, "This one's for Dino." And for a moment, the room feels warm again, like he never left. Because legends don't disappear. They echo. They breathe through the people they heal, through the songs that outlived them. He came from nothing. He sang about love. He died for his truth. And somewhere, when that beat drops, Dino still sings.